Welcome to my channel Echoes of Coin. What if I told you this ordinary 1965 quarter secretly marks the death of silver money in America? One coin, 1 year, and a decision that changed U.S. currency forever. Millions spent it without realizing they were holding the end of an era in their hands. The 1965 quarter dollar of the United States stands as one of the most historically important coins ever released by the U.S. Mint, not because of rarity or precious metal content, but because it represents a dramatic turning point in American monetary history. This coin marks the exact moment when the United States officially ended the use of silver in its circulating quarters, forever changing the composition, value perception, and emotional connection Americans had with their everyday money. To understand the importance of the 1965 quarter, one must understand the economic pressures, political decisions, public reactions, and long-term consequences that surrounded its creation. For decades before 1965, the quarter dollar was made of 90% silver and 10% copper. This composition had remained consistent since 1932 when the Washington quarter was first introduced. Silver coins were trusted, respected, and widely accepted not just for their face value, but for their intrinsic worth. People knew that even if paper money failed, a silver quarter would still hold real value. This belief was deeply ingrained in American society, passed down through generations. Silver coins jingled in pockets, filled cash registers, and circulated freely without much thought. Yet beneath the surface, economic forces were slowly building that would make this system unsustainable. By the early 1960s, the global price of silver had begun rising steadily. Industrial demand for silver increased, and international markets started valuing the metal more highly than before. As silver prices approached the point where the metal inside U.S. coins was worth as much as, or even more than, their face value, a serious problem emerged. If the silver content of a quarter became worth more than 25 cents, people would naturally begin hoarding, melting, or exporting the coins for profit. This phenomenon had already begun quietly, with many Americans setting aside silver coins while spending paper money or base metal coins instead. The U.S. government found itself in a difficult position. On one hand, continuing to mint silver coins risked massive losses as silver prices climbed. On the other hand, removing silver from circulating coinage risked public backlash, loss of confidence in the currency, and political consequences. Coin shortages were already appearing in everyday commerce. Vending machines, parking meters, and public transportation systems began experiencing disruptions. Banks struggled to keep enough coins on hand. Ordinary citizens noticed that quarters, dimes, and half dollars were becoming harder to find. In response to this growing crisis, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, one of the most significant pieces of monetary legislation in U.S. history. This act eliminated silver from the dime and quarter entirely and reduced silver content in the half dollar. The decision was controversial, emotional, and historic. Many Americans felt betrayed, believing that the government was quietly devaluing their money. Others saw it as a necessary modernization to keep the economy functioning. Regardless of opinion, the change was irreversible. The 1965 quarter dollar was the first regular issue quarter struck without any silver at all. Instead, it was made of a copper-nickel clad composition, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This sandwich-like structure gave the coin a silver-colored appearance while dramatically reducing production costs and eliminating reliance on precious metals. At first glance, the coin looked similar to its silver predecessors, but anyone who examined the edge could see the unmistakable copper stripe, a visible symbol of the end of an era. Interestingly, although the coin was dated 1965, production did not strictly follow calendar years as before. To prevent hoarding and speculation, the U.S. Mint temporarily removed mint marks from all coins dated 1965, 1966, and 1967. This meant that 1965 quarters were struck in massive quantities at multiple mint facilities, primarily Philadelphia and Denver, but none carried identifying mint marks. The goal was to discourage collectors and ensure that coins circulated freely rather than being pulled out of circulation for perceived rarity. The mintage numbers for the 1965 quarter dollar are enormous by historical standards. Hundreds of millions were struck, making it one of the most common quarters ever produced. This sheer volume ensured that the coin flooded the economy, easing shortages and restoring everyday commerce. From grocery stores to gas stations, the new clad quarters quickly became familiar. Yet despite their abundance, the emotional response to these coins was complex. Many people immediately noticed the difference in sound, weight, and feel. The distinctive ring of silver was gone, replaced by a duller tone when dropped on a hard surface. The design of the 1965 quarter remained unchanged from earlier Washington quarters. The obverse features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. This portrait had been used since 1932 and was originally created to honor the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. Washington's image was chosen not only because of his role as the first president of the United States, but because he symbolized unity, leadership, and national identity. His calm expression and classical profile conveyed stability during times of change, making the design especially fitting during the turbulent monetary shift of 1965. The reverse of the coin depicts a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows, with olive branches beneath. This design symbolizes both strength and peace, reflecting America's readiness to defend itself while striving for harmony. The inscriptions United States of America and E Pluribus Unum surround the eagle, reinforcing national unity. Although the metal content changed dramatically in 1965, the imagery remained constant, perhaps intentionally, to reassure the public that the nation's values had not changed even if its coins had. Despite government efforts to discourage hoarding, many Americans instinctively saved silver quarters while spending the new clad ones. This behavior proved rational over time. Silver coins gradually disappeared from circulation, becoming collectibles, investments, or family keepsakes. The 1965 quarter, meanwhile, became the new normal. Children born after the mid-1960s grew up never knowing silver quarters as everyday money. For them, the clad quarter was simply what a quarter had always been. From a collector's standpoint, the 1965 quarter is generally not valuable in circulated condition. Because of its high mintage and lack of silver, most examples are worth only face value. However, this does not mean the coin lacks numismatic interest. Certain high-grade, uncirculated examples, especially those with strong strikes and minimal marks, can command modest premiums. Coins graded MS-67 or higher by professional grading services can be surprisingly valuable, reflecting the difficulty of preserving a flawless example from such a heavily circulated issue. Additionally, errors and varieties add intrigue to the 1965 quarter. Double die errors, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other minting anomalies occasionally appear and can be worth significantly more than standard examples. These errors offer a fascinating glimpse into the minting process and remind collectors that even during mass production, imperfections can slip through. Because mint marks were absent during this period, identifying the origin of error coins relies heavily on subtle characteristics rather than obvious markings. The historical significance of the 1965 quarter extends far beyond numismatics. It represents a philosophical shift in how money was defined in the United States. For much of American history, coins were valued not only by government decree but by the precious metals they contained. The 1965 quarter helped finalize the transition to fiat coinage, where value is based entirely on trust in the issuing authority rather than intrinsic material worth. This shift mirrored broader global trends as nations moved away from precious metal standards in favor of more flexible monetary systems. Public reaction to the change was mixed. Some people feared inflation and loss of purchasing power, concerns that would later be echoed during periods of economic instability in the 1970s. Others accepted the change as a practical necessity. Over time, the controversy faded, and the clad quarter became an unremarkable part of daily life. Yet in hindsight, the moment stands out as a defining chapter in American economic history, and the 1965 quarter serves as a tangible artifact of that transformation. The coin also reflects the political climate of the mid-1960s. The United States was deeply involved in global affairs, facing Cold War tensions, the Vietnam War, and rapid social change at home. Economic stability was seen as essential to maintaining national strength and global influence. The decision to remove silver from coinage was not made lightly, but it was seen as necessary to protect the nation's financial system from disruption. Today, the 1965 quarter dollar occupies a unique place in collections and conversations. It is often the first coin people point to when discussing the end of silver coinage. It is frequently used in educational settings to explain the difference between intrinsic and face value. For many collectors, it serves as a starting point for building a typeset that includes both silver and clad Washington quarters, illustrating the evolution of U.S. coinage over time. While it may not be rare or expensive, the 1965 quarter is undeniably important. Its value lies not in metal or scarcity, but in story and symbolism. It tells the story of economic pressure, government decision-making, public trust, and adaptation. It marks the boundary between two eras, one rooted in precious metals and the other in modern monetary policy. Every time a 1965 quarter passes through someone's hands, it carries this history quietly, often unnoticed. It is a reminder that even the most ordinary objects can represent extraordinary change. The coin that once caused controversy and concern eventually became invisible through familiarity, yet its legacy remains embedded in the fabric of American money. In the end, the 1965 quarter dollar is more than just a coin. It is a historical document struck in metal, capturing a moment when the United States redefined the nature of its currency. It symbolizes the end of silver in everyday coinage, the rise of clad composition, and the beginning of a new monetary era that continues to shape the world today.